Good morning. Welcome to episode 95 of the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Wright, coming to you from the cold, frigid, and chilly conditions of Atlantic City, New Jersey. Wherever you may be watching or listening, I thank you as always. Like, share, and subscribe. It helps the channel. You can check the show out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and as well as on Substack. Also, now you can check out the show on Podbean and it's also on Torvo. Hopping right into this episode, guys. This episode is technically the start of week 13, because technically week 13 started on Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving, happy holidays to those of y'all. I hope that y'all were safe and enjoyed y'all time and with family and friends and ate and drank and smoked as much as y'all wanted to. I know I did. I had a great time. Nonetheless, hopping into this episode, we're going to start this game off with the Chicago Bears versus Detroit Lions, which ended in craziness, calamity, and just dire straits for the Chicago Bears. The Lions escaped winning this game 23-20. I must say, this was one of the weirdest games I had watched on Thanksgiving in a long time. Starting off the game, the Lions were getting whatever they wanted, doing whatever they wanted, getting downfield, making plays, forcing the Bears to just be on their heels. But what I noticed early on, that was something that I would be remiss if I didn't mention. I noticed how Chicago, as soon as they got in that red zone, as soon as Detroit got in that red zone against Chicago's defense locked them down. They did not allow any of that sexy, flexy motion shit. They didn't allow any of that misdirection. They knew where the ball was going. They knew how it was being delivered, which shows they followed the tape well. They studied it well. They paid attention. Credit to the Bears defense there. It was weird because I noticed that early on, and then as the game played on, you notice Lions were kind of struggling to put things together. They were 5 of 14 on third down. Really had no continuity. Really were just kind of stagnant and lagging. It was the first time in a long time. Kind of noticed it a bit against the Colts, but noticed it really more pronounced against the Bears, where you're like, wow, they're kind of inefficient. They're not really doing what they're atypical of doing at this point to most teams, which is being dominant and putting teams away early. Like I said, and it was even crazier because looking back at my notes and some of the things I thought, offensively, especially in the first half, Chicago's offense was terrible. They didn't really give their defense that many breaks, that many opportunities to really be efficient enough to get, turnovers or takeaways or sufficient stops. So I got to give the Bears credit to their defense. However, the offense was so ineffective that it forced them to be out on the field, which, allowed the Lions to get a lead early. They were up 10-0 at that point. But like I said, the Bears defense was still holding up, not surrendering points in the red zone. And at that point, I want to keep in mind, this is how I knew something was wrong. At this point, this was the second quarter when I noticed this. I'm making sure I put this in my notes. 3 red zone trips for the Lions. At that point, they only scored 1 touchdown. So that let me know right there, the Bears found something. They figured something out. And it was kind of weird because, like I said, in the first half, the Bears, Caleb Williams, the magic wasn't working. Just was not fluid, wasn't cohesive. Offense was all over the place. Couldn't really get locking on targets. Offensive line was just kind of stagnant. He didn't look well. He didn't look confident in what he was doing. The operation didn't look confident, period. He was sacked 5 times in total for the game, but ultimately he just didn't look confident in what he was doing. By that second half, though, this was a completely different football game, a completely different football team that Chicago showed out and showed up with. I want to make sure I say this clear as day. Caleb Williams looked more confident in the second half. He finished the game 20 of 39, 256 yards and 3 touchdowns. Their running game looked a little bit more confident, even though it really didn't get going the way it should have. When they did have to run the short yardage situations, they were able to get it. But the passing game was what saved them. Caleb in that passing game was what saved them. You had DJ Moore, 8 receptions, 97 yards. You had Keenan Allen, 5 for 73, 2 crucial touchdowns. DJ Moore had a touchdown as well. This team woke up, and they like I said, and at that point, they had tried some 2-point conversions. They had failed. At that point, it was 23-13. So again, The Lions had 23 points by, and this is, if I'm doing my calculations correct, by the second quarter. End of the second quarter, they had 23 points. So from then on, they hadn't scored again. The Bears defense had pretty much locked them out of the end zone. So couldn't get the 2-point conversion going, 23-13. Lions are still kind of hanging around, still trying to figure it out, make it work and make it do what it do. However, going further into this game where the blunders and bullshit came into play, you get in the end zone if you're Chicago. Now as the game's 20-23. You're threatening. Lions are stagnant. Lions can't do anything. They can't move the ball, aren't looking well. Chicago's defense makes a stand. I mean, I'm damn near flabbergasted saying this. Chicago's defense makes a stand. They get a chance to really take over this game. Then you get the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty from Keenan Allen, which was hella uncharacteristic in that moment. Not sure what the fuck he was thinking. I understand he was upset. He was flustered. You know, he felt like he got a face mask. I get it, but bad time for that. Horrible time for that. Turned into a 3rd and 7. They still convert the first down. Detroit looked like they were starting to fall apart and fold. So you had to give Chicago credit for that. And they were converting the crucial first downs. And then all of a sudden, they get into this little malaise. I mean, you know, it's a 30 seconds known around the world. You get 30 seconds on the clock, and Eberflus doesn't manage the game properly, and now the game's over because you only have one deep ball being thrown to Rome Odunze, and it goes nowhere because that wasn't really the play. It was supposed to just be something to kill the clock, and that's your ball game. You almost pulled off one of the most major upsets in the NFL this season, and it's all because your coach is ineffective in late game situations. I mean, and to give you guys some perspective, I mean, make no mistake, the Lions were dominating this game. Dominating this game. They had this game in hand for most of it. I mean, it was pretty fucking bad. And then all of a sudden, it's like, well, wait, hold on. This is a football game again? Wait. Then Malcolm Rodriguez, he gets injured. We now know he's out for the season. You know, you're starting to look like, why is Detroit looking like this? What's going on? Why did they get so stagnant? The combination of injuries, the combination of just, you know, having to be the top dog and having to be the hunted, it's starting to wear. It's starting to wear on them. You can start to see it. And I like I said, I wonder how long they're going to be able to hold up. They definitely aren't going to be healthy enough as they would like to be going down the stretch, but they're going to be as healthy as they're going to be. But yeah, they got problems. They're going to definitely have to address on the defense. They have flaws that will definitely be exposed later by better teams. Defensive backfield is bad, pass rush, and the rash of injuries they've suffered. It's just something I think that will definitely catch up with them. But Chicago, want to give them credit. Second half team deserves a lot of credit for their comeback. And it's funny, I wrote this down in my notes that Eberflus will be fired, and he literally was the next day. Didn't want to accept responsibility for the fact that the clock management was terrible. Tried to save face, and it's egregious. And to put this even more into perspective of why he needed to be fired, he literally is 5-19 for his career in one-score games. That is not a mark of a good coach. That is a mark of a coach who doesn't really know what he's doing, doesn't really trust his gut, doesn't really trust what he's really doing, and he's going with it. And if he fails, I'm going to be ornery and stagnant about it, and it is what it is. Just not good. I know that the team has pretty much said he's pretty much a nice guy. You know, he does a lot of great things, and, you know, but he's just not coaching the guys to the level he needs to be coached to. Well, then it explains why he's been fired. Because 5-19 in one-score games, the coaching blunder where you're not using the timeout wisely or using the clock properly to defeat, you know, your arch nemesis and arguably the best team in the NFC, it was just shitty. It was just shitty. He deserved everything that came to him. This was a long time coming, and I'm not sure what the future holds for the Panthers, for the Bears as far as a coach. But that being said, Eberflus had to go. I mean, this guy literally was costing them games. He was costing them major games. And, rectifiable things that now can no longer be rectified. So at that point, you just wash your hands of it and, be done with the guy. And, good riddance Eberflus, because ultimately Caleb Williams wasn't going to grow with you or Shane Waldron. That just wasn't going to happen in the first place. So, and I'm pretty sure Eberflus probably knew that. He probably is a delusional fuck to try to save face and say, no, it could have worked. We all knew he was getting fired at some point. It was never going to work. Going forward, Cowboys and Giants, which this game was a fucking snoozer. I was so happy because, I ate a big-ass plate of food, y'all. And at that point, I was just like, ooh, a little woozy. Damn, I got to stay up for this game. And outside of Drew Lock playing well for a couple drives, Giants, again, horrible team. A lot of damn holding penalties. Cowboys needed a get-right game. That was the game. Got Micah Parsons hyped to the fact that he talking about a playoff run because he beat the Giants. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. But, Drew Lock definitely should have been the starter in the first place. But we can clearly see, as I've said numerous times and as others have definitely eloquently placed, the problems with this team is not the quarterback position per se, just that. Offensive line's bad. They're undisciplined. They're immature. And they're not good enough. And playing Dallas, coming off a high win against the Commanders and knowing that they needed this win and knowing that the Giants are weak and it's a chance to destroy their opponent, they did exactly what they were supposed to. The Cowboys wound up winning this game, like I said, 27-20. The game looked a lot closer than what it was supposed to be, but trust me, it was over a lot sooner. I was glad that I was able to eat a bit and kind of nap a bit because this game was really over. It was never really in question. Like I said, the Giants wound up putting together a late drive. That's why the score looks a lot closer than what it was. But like I said, Giants are terrible. Not sure what their future is. They definitely going to have to draft their problems away, but it's not looking good for them. All right, coming up next will be the Dolphins versus Packers, which I love this game because for me, it was one major thing. I definitely had some key takeaways, but the major thing I really wanted to talk about with this game was I wanted someone to shut up Tua Tagovailoa. And I know a lot of you are like, well, damn, what should be for Tua? No, I think Tua's a good player. I think Tua, he's not a great quarterback, but I think he's a good player. The argument that I've had with Tua, though, a lot of times, you're not good enough to be talking like that. You talk greasy at times as if you're that guy, and you're not. As a matter of fact, you probably haven't been that guy since maybe high school or maybe college, maybe Alabama, you were that guy. I don't know, but you're not that guy. Your team looks cold. Y'all look soft. Y'all look overmatched. I mean, you lost 30-17, but let's be real. The game was really over when it was 27-11. You got guys out there with parkas near to the damn heaters with big ass mittens on, and y'all worried about the cold. Y'all were not worried about winning a football game. Y'all worried about being warm. And ultimately, this is why you're not going to be effective or going to be a winning team, because you're going to have to go somewhere cold in January. And we can already negate the fact that you're not going to be able to run an effective offense. You had Tua, let me get this straight, 46 passing attempts, 37 of 46, right? It looks sexy. 365 yards and 2 touchdowns. Rushing attack was non-existent. 14 carries for 39 yards for the Miami Dolphins. Packers completely took the running game away. But yet, let's look in contrast to the Packers. 21 of 28 for Jordan Love, 274 yards, 2 touchdowns. Rushing attack as a whole, 25 of 114. Again, keep this in mind. The Dolphins will have you to believe that they're a running team that can spread it out in all these different ways. And as soon as that temperature drops, they can't do it. Like I said, it's going to be a factor. It's going to be a factor because wherever you play in the winter, it's going to be a factor. Whether it's Kansas City, Buffalo, wherever you go, it's going to be a factor. So Dolphins can continue to make excuses, but they're soft. Their ass is definitely being shown and exposed. Shout out to Jaden Reed. He had a couple touchdowns in this game. Definitely showed out. Yeah, I don't, like I said, I no longer want to hear Tua talk about narratives. The narrative is your ass in the cold, and you can't beat good teams when the weather drops below 50 degrees. So figure that out. And wrapping up this holiday, start of Week 13 holiday episode will be the Black Friday game, which was brought to all of us on Amazon Prime, if you caught it, or NFL Network, if you guys had the app. It was the Chiefs versus Raiders. This game was weird because this game started off sloppy as fuck, a little discombobulated and disjointed. And then all of a sudden it kind of started coming together. I love how Norv and Scott Turner are calling the offense for the Raiders, how it's kind of like, young guy getting the overseeing from dad to get the blessing to make sure he's calling it correctly or running it right. But that being said, this was a sloppy ass game to start. It was very boring. I was kind of like wondering what the hell was going on. At that point, too, in the beginning of the game, the Raiders had only ran a few plays in the Chiefs' territory. So I was really concerned that, like, okay, this, might not be develop into anything that we think it might be. I was glad that I kept the dial on and definitely didn't turn from the stream and just kept watching. It was a good game. The Raiders played valiantly. I think that their effort was just top notch. However, when you're not scoring touchdowns and the other team has already and they're kicking field goals, it just puts you in a very precarious situation. Like I said, and at that point, Kansas City was up 16-6. That being said, going forward, Raiders finally scored. And like I said, thoughts creeping in your head. Raiders might be able to steal this game. However, you come into a situation where the Raiders, no matter how well they play, until they really get that quarterback position buttoned up and they play better and more sound and effectively on defense, Kansas City and Pat Mahomes are going to continue to walk away with this division and, just forcing you into dumbass blunders and mistakes and decisions that's just going to cause, them to win and you to lose and you to be sitting there second guessing yourself. So got to talk about some more of the key points. One, the Chiefs made the playoffs, so credit that their first teams that made the playoffs this year. Definitely going to have a chance to do the three-peat and defend their crown. So got to give the Chiefs credit for that. Like I said, and I wrote in my notes, they're obviously either the most blessed team in football or the most prayed over team in football, either or. God bless them. The Raiders need a new quarterback and a few more skill positions on the outside, and then they can really, really be in position. And the question I think all of us want to know, because I think we all feel it can because we saw it to a degree last year, can this last? Can this style of play, can this breakneck, heartbreaking, fast pace last for Kansas City? Because you're going to run into a team that's effectively enough in the playoffs that can slow it down, that's not going to outthink themselves. And how do you respond to it? So, interesting things to check and see. But it's going to do it for this episode, guys. I thank you as always. Again, like, share, and subscribe. You can check the show out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Substack. I'm going to have some more episodes coming for Week 13 recap from the games from Sunday. Definitely stay tuned for that. Be safe, happy holidays, and take care.